Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am really excited to share my conversation today with Lara Piu, who is really always had a very strong intuition, but she didn't trust that at all times because she felt like it would, lead her down a dead-end road, so to speak. So it wasn't till a life-threatening situation in 2006 that really led her to spend the next decade developing a way to tune out the distractions and tune in, as she likes to say, the divine. She is a certified growth coach. She is also a psychic and a medium. Lara founded Live to Listen in 2016 to help busy women live an inspired, fulfilling, and divinely led life. Welcome to the show today, Lara.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Well, let's dive in. As you know, this podcast is all about telling the story behind our fantastic entrepreneurs. So take us back, talk a little bit about, where you're from, and take us through your career path. You have a significant amount of experience, and I'm sure all of it, you bring into what you are doing now. So take us along that path, please.
Sure. I grew up in New York until I was about 15. And then my family and we moved out here to Scottsdale, Arizona. And then I attended Arizona State University, and then I earned a master's degree at Portland State University. And at the time, I wanted to get into nonprofit administration. I was very interested in the arts. And I ended up getting recruited by a PR firm. And she said, you would be really good in PR. You need to do that. And I was just like, no way. I just spent all this money on my master's degree, doing something else. And anyhow, long story short, ended up in PR. Worked in corporate PR for the first 10 years or so of my career. I started with Wells Fargo Bank. And then I worked mostly in like high-tech firms after that. Then I wanted to change. I wanted to do something new, so I kind of generalized went into just marketing and doing like account management. And I worked for two different agencies at that point. So I was in agency life. And then in 2016, I actually, right around that time, well, a little bit before that time, I had started a job. I had the opportunity to work part-time. And I realized that was my opportunity to transition into freelance work, because I had previously started freelancing to raise or to like have extra money to send my daughter to cheer, to what is it called, a club cheer, which if there's anyone out there who has kids in club cheer, it is very expensive.
Oh,
so
goodness,
I started writing on the side, and I built this whole like portfolio of freelance writing while I had my full-time job. So then I worked part-time and did the freelance. And then in 2016 or the beginning of 2017, it was like that Christmas, I decided, okay, I'm not getting any younger. I need to make the leap at some point, because I really, I needed to make the leap at some point. So I quit the part-time job and just started freelancing full-time. And at that point, that's when I did Interglow Communications full-time.
Great. Awesome. It sounds like that transition was kind of a natural flow for you. Some of the folks that I talk to, it's this dramatic decision to leave their long corporate career and, kind of jump off the cliff, as it feels like sometimes. But it sounds like for you, it was certainly more of, as I said, a natural transition. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it had been a long time coming. Like I felt the call for a long time.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to go back because in our intro, we alluded to a life-threatening situation that happened in 2006. Are you open to sharing that?
Oh, absolutely. And I write all about it in my book. Um, Basically, long story short, I put all of the money that I had to my savings into a partial ownership of a flower shop. Was
Mm.
dating the man that I co-owned the flower shop with and living with him. He turns out to be a big time jerk, fairly abusive verbally, and finally one day he smacked me on the face. I left
Mm.
after that.
Mm.
And I didn't want to leave because it was like he had all my money. So I was like, how do I get out of this and also get my money?
Yeah.
Anyhow, once he hit me, I was gone. And but so this went on for about 6 to 8 months, and every morning during that time, every single morning before my feet would hit the floor, I would hear really loud, "I love you." And I really thought I was going nuts. Like I
Mm.
was like, this, boy, yeah, I'm in a bad situation. I'm going nuts too. This is good.
Oh, my
Um,
goodness.
and finally, about a day or two after I left, I remember thinking, was that, and before I could even finish the thought of, was that God? I heard, yes, it was, and don't you ever forget, like in a really firm
Mm.
voice like that. And
Mm.
I thought, wow, I had been led the whole time. I had been watched the whole time. I'd been watched over, and I left and I got out of the situation. Fast forward about 10 years, I got a call from somebody who said, "Hey, do you know blah blah blah?" I won't say the name of the man that I had been with. "Do you know him?" And I said, "Yes." And he says, "Well, I see that you have a, I had taken him to court and I had um, um, he owed me money. I don't know how to describe it. Like I had
Yeah.
a court
A
order
ruling
from
against
him
him.
that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
public
Yeah.
document. Yeah."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, what do you know about this man?" And I told him what had happened, and the full story. And he said, "Oh, well, woman just walked into my office and she told me that he beat her, like he beat her."
Oh
And I
my
was just like,
gosh.
wow, I really
Horrible.
dodged a bullet there. I mean, he just sort of
Mm.
smacked me, it was like
Hmm.
you know, I mean, it wasn't okay, but it was certainly not anything near a beating. And
Oh my
so,
gosh.
I just knew that I had been saved, and I had dodged a bullet, and that I needed to listen. It was going back to the intro. I had always had a strong intuition, but I would have these times where my intuition would lead me down the wrong road. And
Mm.
so I stopped listening to my intuition because I didn't trust it. But when I
Mm.
realized, okay, God had my back that whole time, and now He's telling me, hey, don't you better, it now. I made it
Yeah.
clear.
Hmm.
I could no longer ignore that. And so I figured, okay, I have to figure this out. I have to crack the code. What's actually divine guidance coming to me, and what's the distractions? What's the garbage that's sending me down those funny trails?
I want to pause on that, Laura, because this is such an important point. I mean, I believe all women have amazing intuition, and men that do too. But I think, just my personal opinion, it feels like women maybe are a bit more tuned into it, perhaps, than
Mm-hmm.
men are, or, hopefully many are. And yet, you said it yourself, we tend to kind of suppress it at times, and I describe it as, and as a lot of people do, a feeling, a gut feeling, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
you meet somebody, you step into a conversation with somebody, and just something isn't right, right? In your gut,
Yeah.
But yet we go and rationalize that well, I'm probably thinking about that because blah, 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 type of thing. So I'm really glad that you talk about this openly, because we need to be more aware of this, right? I mean, we need to be listening to that intuition. We need to be, not suppressing it.
Yes, absolutely. And the great thing is, it's really simple. One of the myths I'm passionate about dispelling is how difficult it can be. And then it's like, you've got to light a candle, you've got to light incense, you've got to say a certain prayer in a certain way, and you've got to do yoga and meditation. And, all of those things are great. I mean, I love all those things. I do all those things, but none of those things are required for listening, for tapping into that intuition. It's there. It's always there. It's coming at us almost pretty much all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we rationalize, or at least I rationalize way too much.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your business a little more. Let's talk about your book that you've come out with. I know you have been working in this business, Inner Glow Communications, doing marketing communication work. But I understand, as you said, that you're shifting away from that more and more, and really focusing on this platform you've built, the Live to Listen. So website is live-to-listen.com. So talk about how you came to write the book. And the book title is Hear God Now, Divine Guidance for Women on the Go. It's available on Amazon. So talk about that process in writing the book.
Sure. The book had been sort of brewing in my mind for a long time. And but I was always working, and even now I'm still, doing my day job. I'm still working. So what I did was I decided, okay, I've got to find a way, and I actually asked for divine guidance. How do I start this? And it came to me of, look, just you've got the technology, record it. So what I would do is, like, every day for like 15 minutes either on my drive to work or just 15 minutes on my laptop, I would just hit the voice. I'd do like a voice memo, and I'd just sort of download what was going on in my head, and it came together pretty well, because it was like I'd actually write maybe 1,500 or so words that way, and I just did this every day until I think it took about 3 months like that. But the one thing was, I was like, I'm going to do this 5 days a week. I've got to do that. Even if I think what I'm saying is junk, I could always delete it.
Yep. Great idea. Yeah. Being disciplined about it. Very, very important.
Yeah. Cause it adds up. And then one day I just sort of looked at it and I went, I think I've got enough for a book. And it just kind of went from there.
What was the process like then, organizing all that content?
The way I did do an outline in advance, so that helped. When I looked back on all my voice memo, like the transcriptions, it actually was fairly well organized. I just kind of had to edit it. I went through like many edits, and I had friends edit it, and I had an editor. So that was probably the hard part. I think, looking back, if I were to write another book, I'd try to write it cleaner the first round, or at least like instead of, so like, let's say if I decide to do the voice memo purge again, I would then spend like 5 minutes that day just editing that content, because it's so much easier to edit like 15 words at a time versus
the whole thing. Yes.
I was like, oh.
I know. As someone who also wrote a book, it's like, oh, goodness grief. I had a lot of help too. I would never have gotten it done had I not employed some of my resources. So
I know. Like last week, somebody said to me, it took my father 10 years to write a book. And I went, I get that.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. What's a daunting process. And then you get it done. and it's edited. I mean, I had somebody go through and read through an editor, 3 different editors, three pass-throughs, and I still have typos in my book. It's like,
I know.
and
I
I didn't
still have some too.
right.
Like,
I mean,
whatever. I can't anymore.
I know it's never going to be perfect, but it was interesting. The way I actually really discovered it was when I finally, 3 years after I published the book, went through to do the audiobook on it. And having to read your book out loud is, of course, the best way to identify. I had my book next to me with a big Sharpie, and I would just, the gentleman who was helping me with the recording, I'd be like, okay, pause. I got to highlight this. I got to So now I've got to go back. And anyways, it's our work is never done.
No. No rest for the wicked.
Exactly. So with your book, and with this platform you've built, are you doing speaking? Are you doing training? Like, tell me, what is this evolving into?
Yeah, it's all unfolding like right now. So I have the book. What I'm really passionate about is teaching people how to be their own psychic. And so I do, medium and psychic readings. I do personal readings, and then I also do group readings, and they're a lot of fun. And people have breakthroughs, and they have healing, and they cry, and they have hope. They regain hope, and all of that is great. And I'm glad to provide that to service to people. But what I'm really excited about is teaching people, teaching women especially, busy women, how to be their own psychic, because I've seen how it's helped me. Once you do get the hang of it, which is usually through practice, then you really, it really empowers your life, and it informs your life in such a great way. So how I'm doing that is I'm actually just today about to publish a free mini course. It's a mini master course on how to be your own psychic. So that one is free. It's a real quick one. And then in the coming months, I'm going to develop like a full-blown course that I'm going to offer.
Very cool. Well, can I ask a few questions on this? So for our listeners and for myself, give us, a few of the top things that someone can start to think about if they want to tap in.
Absolutely. So there's 3 basic steps for, however you want to put it, being your own psychic or tapping into the divine. The first one is listen. So, and the thing to know about listening is it's not prescriptive. Like I had said before, there's nothing you have to do or be to know that divine guidance is coming at you. You don't have to be happy. You don't have to be in a meditative state. None of that. In fact, I've gotten some of my best guidance when I was miserable and pissed off. So, those are some of the myths. And I outline in the book, what are the different ways that I receive divine guidance. There's a lot of ways it comes at us. But the main thing to know is it is happening. And so if you feel it happening, it probably is happening. There really only is one requirement in my experience, which is that you have to opt in. We're not slaves to anything, right? You have to in your heart say, okay, yeah, please send me the way, show me the way, And then the second step is to document. And so I document date, time, place, and the question and the answer. And when it comes to the question and the answer, I document in symbols or like shorthand, because what we want to do is we want to keep this conversation between the divine and us, like kind of in your heart, and you want to keep it private. You really want to keep that private. But some quick ways to know is it divine is ask yourself 4 questions. Is it helpful? Is it timely? Is it true? Or is it loving? If you get a no to any of those, it's not divine. Ignore it. Move on.
Okay. It's helpful to have that checklist, certainly.
That's an easy way. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's an easy one. Yep.
Lara, I have a question, and this might be totally ignorant, but
No.
are you defining the difference between divine guidance and intuition? Is that the same? Are they different?
I believe it's the same. When you opt
Okay,
in, it's the same.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So, and then the
I was,
third step would,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, no, that's a great question. And I always say, that's why I just say the divine or like your maker, because it's sort of different for everyone. Some people believe in the universe or spirit. Some people say God. There's a lot of expressions, I think, really,
Hmm.
in my opinion, of pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And then number 3 would be verify. And this is sort of the hard part because you kind of just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
But having those experiences over and over where you go 1, 2, 3, you go through each of those steps over and over, that's where you gain that experience and that confidence of, okay, what does that divine voice feel like? What does it sound like? What's it like for me? And you just kind of, the way I explain it often is, you want to have such a great, so much experience with that divine voice that, or your intuition, that no one can, no one can fool you. So it's just like if somebody called and tried to impersonate your mother, it'd be very hard for that person to do that because you know how your mother talks. You have a huge history with her. You know where your conversation last left off. So you want to kind of have it like that with the divine as well, where it's so intimate and there's so much history there that it would be very hard for anything to get in the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's coming to mind, Lara, as you say this is I want a journal, right? And I
Yeah.
want these so is this coming? Are you working on a journal by chance?
Oh boy, you nailed it. Yeah. So in the free mini course that I should have posted by the end of today, it'll probably be posted by the time you post this podcast.
Yeah.
It's in that free mini course. There's actually a
Mm.
downloadable journal that you can download and just use over and over.
Cool. Awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. I'm excited to check it out. Well,
Yeah.
what other than well, you've talked about the mini course and a full-blown course. What are some of the other exciting things you're working on in 2020?
Oh boy.
Not that
Well,
that's not enough. I mean, you got plenty that you're working on.
gosh. Yeah, well, no, after I post the mini course, the next step is to, build out the full-blown masterclass on how to be your own psychic. So that'll take a while. I want it to be a really good quality product with nice videos and nice downloads and nice tools that you can actually use. And I would love, gosh, my wish list is to, rather than do like a journal that you can like buy at the bookstore, which although that could be nice too, I'd love to create like a little app
That's
so
a good
that you
idea.
can kind of, yeah,
Ooh, a voice
I
app.
don't know, maybe both
A
are good,
voice app where you can like
yeah,
voice journal. Oh, I like it.
right, yeah. So yeah, I have that's basically what I have in mind for 2020 is to build that out. And I'm also looking forward to doing more readings. The group readings are actually the most fun because that's where you get to witness other people getting these powerful confirmations, and people will they'll cry and they'll talk about what's been going on, and you're there in a support group with friends that will support you through that, and it's just so much more powerful when you do these readings with other friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I bet.
and it's a lot of fun too.
I bet. That's awesome. Well, I know this little place called the Hera Hub where you might be able to set some of that up.
Yeah. Yep.
Fantastic. Well, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, Lara, what's the best way for them to do that?
So probably the best place would be to go to my website, which is live-to-listen.com, or you can always email me. I'm just Lara, Lara, at the same thing, at live-to-listen.com. Or if you're a Hera Hub member, just, get on the Hera Hub Facebook page, and I'm pretty active in there as well. So you could always just tag me or message me.
Great. Sounds good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Lara.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure getting to know you.
The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.